Good evening. It is 5 o'clock in Laguna Beach, and this is the Design Review Board. I am filling in for our chair, Jessica Gannon. I'm vice chair, Christine Thalman, and it's a pleasure to see you here tonight. This is my last meeting of DRB. I'm going to get teary. I can't believe that. I was looking forward to it. It's been a great road though, and I've really appreciated, learned so much, and I have a great appreciation for staff. This city is amazing. I know we've got our flaws, and we hear about them from time to time, but all in all, we've got a lot of dedicated personnel and people that really care about the city. And I think that's what Design Review is about. It's about caring for our city and how it looks. So anyway, it's a pleasure.
Chair, before we begin, can I have the floor for a second, please?
Sure.
All right, I'll stand up. I don't know if everyone can hear me, but I have a little letter proclamation from our mayor, Alex Rogani, which I'm going to read, but I will tell you what's handwritten, which I'll save for the last, is the best. And our mayor said, Dear Christine, on behalf of the entire city council, I would like to thank you for your service to the city as a member of the Design Review Board. Our commissions, committees, boards play a vital part in our city government and are of great assistance to the city council in performing its role. The commitment that you made as a committee member provided a valuable service to the residents of Laguna Beach and helped to keep the city a very special place to live. Your efforts are much appreciated. That was typed. This is what's in handwritten. And by the way, I think we'd get a unanimous vote on this. In fact, I know we would. Alex writes, one of the best, if not the best, DRB member in the history of Laguna Beach. Thank you very much. So I'm going to give you this and I'm going to say a few words. So I'm gonna say a few words and I'll call on my other members to say a few words. Chris has done 3 terms. That's 6 years on the Design Review Board, and that's a long time.
It's 25 in dog years.
Okay. And when I came onto the board, I was awestruck by what a great job she did, how much care she took, how much time she spent, how deep an understanding she had of projects, and most importantly, the common sense she brought to each of the decisions. I like to say that when I see somebody contribute, we don't get paid. We do this because we care about the city. And when I see somebody like Chris and what she's done for Laguna Beach, I view it as a blessing. And it's been a real blessing what contributions Chris has given to this great city that we are very lucky to work in. And I will always enjoy that blessing because I got to sit with her for 2 years. I'm going to deeply miss her. You know, I wish the very best. So thank you, Chris, for the wonderful job and being a friend on this board.
Thank you, Tom. That was very nice. Too nice.
And one more thing to add, on behalf of Chair Gannon and the entire board, we want to, I think get it out of the box. We wanted to thank you for your service. And it has been 6, it has. Yeah. So yeah, we all appreciate everything you've done for being on the board as a colleague and as a friend over the years. I can look back and remember our first DRB meeting where you and I met for dinner ahead of the meeting over at Lumberyard. We both kind of looked at each other like, what did we sign up for? But we both agreed that we'd try to make positive change for the way we contribute in terms of professionalism to the board and serve the community in a more healthy way. And I believe we've accomplished that primarily because of your demeanor, your professionalism, and your outstanding character. So, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure serving with you on the board, and I wish you all the best.
I'll just quickly jump in since I'm the
Okay,
I'm
that's
going to
enough.
quickly jump in and just say I'm the new member. Of course, you're adorable. I'm going to miss drinking DRBs across the street at the lumberyard after these meetings when we have a chance to kind of sit and just share some stories about our lives. It's been great to get to know you, and you show a stunning professionalism, kindness on the board. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you, MJ. Thank you so much. I'm lost for words, and it's too much attention. It's way too much attention. So let's proceed with the meeting, shall we? This is beautiful. With that, Maria, would you like to take the roll call?
Board Member Coveney,
Here.
Board Member Gibbs,
Here.
Board Member Weil,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And please join me in saluting our flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, the meeting procedure will be as follows. First, we'll have public communications. Any member of the public can address the board on items that are not agendized, but in the purview of the Design Review Board. Comments will be limited to a minimum of 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 15 minutes for all comments, unless extended for good cause by the board. Then we have the consent calendar. And any item that staff believes does not require a public hearing may be placed on the consent calendar. Any Design Review Board member or any member of the public may withdraw any item from the consent calendar by oral request prior to a vote on the consent calendar. And then we have a regular order of business. The chair introduces the item, the address, and DR number. Applicants take their seats at the front desk. Ex parte disclosures by board members. Staff will present a summary presentation. Board questions are directed to staff. The public hearing is declared open, and the applicant has 5 minutes to present. Members of the public have 3 minutes for comment. Applicant team has 3 minutes for rebuttal. Board questions are then given to the applicant, and the public hearing is then closed. Then there's board discussion and deliberation. We'll call for a motion and a second. Discussion of the motion, call for the vote. The staff reports, and any board comments. So if any person residing within 300 feet of the project who disagrees with the board's actions has 14 days to appeal the decision to City Council. And with that, I'll move to number 2, our public communications. Is there anyone who wants to speak on an item that is not on the agenda tonight?
Good evening, Morris Skandarian, architect. I've been doing this for 50 years, and I've probably been to 250 to 300 design review board meetings. And on behalf of the design community, I'd like to give my sincere thanks and theirs for Chris's participation in the process. I think the city is lucky to have you guys up here, all of you, and from what I've witnessed over all these years, this is one of the most professional, gifted, talented group that I've ever seen. And it's just gotten better and better every year. I think it's well balanced. I think you all have an expertise that from real estate to law to construction, and I think the city benefits from that. And I think the process benefits, and our community has benefited because I think the purpose of all this that no other town has is to preserve and maintain the character of this town. And I think that the process has worked. So Chris, thank you. You've done a great job. You've been very fair, at least to me, and very, very professional in your deliberations and how you review projects, and especially the time you take to go out to the site and ask questions and weigh the benefits and values of both sides of all the projects. Anyway, thanks again, and thanks to all of you.
Morris, that means a lot coming from you. Thank you. The Godfather. We refer to him as the Godfather, right? Now, modifications?
Chair,
Yes.
we would want to do the modification of agenda order, and I'll just report that there is no change to the agenda order.
Great. Thank you for that reminder. And then the consent calendar, we have item 4.1 is minutes for approval. And item 4.2 is 31731 Seacode Drive, which is a request to continue.
And that'll be to a date certain, May 22nd, 2025.
Thank you. That was May 22nd, 2025. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that the board approve 4.1 and 4.2 on the consent calendar.
Second.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Gibbs.
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right. Our next item is for regular business. And the first item is 5.11173 Marine Drive. And if we can,
Chair, I suggest we move this on expedited.
I agree. That's a great idea. And then ex parte, please.
I went by the site and spoke with Tom Simpson.
Same with me. I went by the site and spoke to Mr. Thompson.
Great.
What's his name? Tom Simpson, that's it. Write it down, but that's who I met with.
Reviewed the site and spoke with Keith.
And I visited the site as well. All right. Let's have a expedited staff report.
Thank you so
The
much.
applicant, is the applicant here before we start? If you can come to the front desk, thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.1 is at 1173 Marine Drive. The applicant is requesting design review 24-2462 to request reconstruction of a private beach access stairway within the bluff top setback in the R1 zone. The stairway was completely destroyed by a storm on May 20th, 2023. Pursuant to our code, since it is a pre-coastal stairway, illegal non-conforming encroachment, it can be rebuilt in the same location and size, which is what is proposed. The project does not require a coastal development permit because it is exempt pursuant to Code Section 2507.008. So staff is, 8 letters of support were received from neighboring property owners, and staff recommends that the board adopt Resolution 24-2462, approving design review 24-2462, and finding the action exempt from CEQA.
Thank you. Heather, any board questions of staff? Okay. You have 5 minutes to present or less.
Okay, I think it's about 2 minutes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Simpson. I'm the general contractor for the owner, Mary, and also a longtime Laguna resident. The section of stairs fell in the storm in May of 2023. I immediately contacted the city to obtain permission to repair the stairs and for the correct protocol to remove the debris from the beach. I met with water quality, followed their instructions to clean the pieces of concrete from the beach, and started work on the permit, which brings me here today. In reviewing the existing city permits and the original construction methods, we determined the entire length of stairs, adjacent site walls, and patio off the lower floor were completed in the mid to late 1950s. The seawall and gate at the lowest section of stairs is mentioned in a 1959 permit application for the pool. This confirms the stairs and seawall predate the Coastal Act and formation of the Coastal Commission. There is also photographic evidence of this. The stair repair qualifies for a coastal permit exemption, which is outlined in more depth in the staff report. The stairs run from the bottom floor of the house to the sand. They total 62 steps and 11 landings. We are asking to replace 8 steps and 1 landing. Previously, the stair section was attached to the rocks on the beach in 2 locations, at the base of the stairs and by a caisson at the landing above. The caisson will be eliminated and the stair will only attach to the rocks at the bottom, where the bottom step and footing still remain. The main support for the stair section will be the seawall. The existing seawall is sound and embedded into the bedrock on 3 sides. The landing at the top will cantilever back into the yard to replace the caisson. The construction will comply with all applicable jurisdiction requirements and best practices. All construction materials will be chosen to best hold up against the harsh marine environment. It is important to us that the beach is protected and the stair repair only enhances the beach and neighborhood as mentioned in the neighbor support letters. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Any members of the public that want to speak on the item 5.1, 1173 Marine Drive, please come to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do. I'm Nancy Bushnell, and I've lived in Laguna about 50 years, and I've gone through this process. And as a homeowner, you actually helped me, which was very nice. But I just want to tell you that I wrote one of the letters, the 8 letters that they mentioned. And if anybody hasn't read it and wants a copy, I have it. But I just want to tell you that Mary has proven herself to be really a great addition to our neighborhood. And those stairs are awful. I've been down those stairs. I used to go and run on the beach with Betty Sutton, which you might have known, from the Penny Saver, who owned that house before. And it was a joy. And it's an eyesore and ugly, and I can't recommend highly enough to let her do that and have that lovely addition to her house. Well, actually, that was there when she bought it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. No, it's part of the record. We did receive it. Any other comments from the public? All right, you have 3 minutes to rebut that support.
Just like to say thank you.
All right, any board questions? Okay, well, I'll go first on this. I think this is a very simple one, just merely from a public safety standpoint. It meets all the design review standards. You gave a good history of the project, what things were like prior to the Coastal Act. And this is an easy one to approve tonight, so I'm in favor of the project and can support.
Yeah, Chair, I concur with your analysis. This clearly is a repair and in-kind maintenance application to repair damage to a historical access point. And I don't see there's any issues with the public safety as outlined in the staff report. And I concur with their analysis for the coastal development permit.
And I concur with my board members, and I just want to thank you for your diligence on, it looks like you're the best guy for the job, that you're really taking special care, that you have a solid commitment to making this look good, safe, and be safe, and do the right thing for the community. And it seems like it's a great community, that neighborhood. So thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
First, just so the record's clear, no coastal development permit is required. So okay. Yeah, I agree with everything my colleague said. And the other thing I'd point out, obviously I'm going to approve the project as well, is the care you're taking in rebuilding the stairs. It is, so the public knows, it is a meticulous repair with virtually no impact or threat of impact on the beach. And someone who uses that beach, because I live in North Laguna and love Lower Crescent Bay Beach, I appreciate that. So great project. Let's get it done. You got my support.
I'll entertain a motion. If somebody
Chair,
would like
I'll
to-
move item number 5.1 at project location 1173 Marine Drive, that the board adopts resolution 24-24-62, attachment 1, approving design review 24-24-62 for reconstruction of a legal non-conforming private beach access stairway and finding said action exempt from California Equalities Act, CEQA, under section 15302 of the state CEQA guidelines.
I'll second.
Great. Maria, let's take roll call.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes,
motion carried.
great. Congratulations. That was easy. All right, next up is item 5.2, 1099 Dyer Place. And so if the applicant can take a seat at the front desk, and we have a staff report. Any interest in an expedited staff?
Chair, I'd
report
call
on
for
this?
one.
I would call for it.
An
Second
expedite.
that.
I would agree. Okay. So Heather, let's have an expedited staff
I
report.
don't want to do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, ex parte, I'm sorry. Ex parte.
Just visited the site.
And I visited the site and spoke with Katerina.
I visited the site and met with Katerina there.
As did I. All right, Heather. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting design review 24-2471, coastal development permit 24-2472, and a revocable encroachment permit 24-2295. The project includes demolition of an existing detached non-conforming second dwelling unit, a new elevated deck, grading, and a trash enclosure in the front yard setback associated with a proposed detached accessory dwelling unit, and 2 new low walls, which are 6 inches high, and pervious pavers in the public right-of-way. Design review is not required for the proposed ADU. However, the ADU is subject to a conditional use permit. Staff believes that all of the required findings can be made, and we recommend adopting Resolution 24-2471, approving DR 24-2471, Coastal Development Permit 24-2472, and Revocable Encroachment Permit 24-2295, and finding the said action exempt from CEQA.
Great. Thank you, Heather. And now the public hearing is open. The applicant has 5 minutes to present the project.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Katerina Burianova. I am the architect for the project at 1099 Dyer Place. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, board members Thalman and Gibbs, for meeting me at the site. And also thank you, board member Covini, for talking to me about the project over the phone. The newly proposed deck has been carefully designed to avoid impacting any views. In fact, it enhances them by removing an existing tree that currently obstructs views for neighbors up the hill. The deck was designed to be tucked into the hillside, ensuring privacy while providing a modest outdoor space for the ADU. The new trash enclosure is positioned to allow for convenient pickup from Flamingo, and the inclusion of pervious pavers and low landscape walls ensures an accessible path to the staircase leading up to the ADU. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions of the applicant or staff? Board? Questions? All right. The public hearing is open for the project at 1099 Dyer Place. If you'd like to speak, please come to the podium. Going, gone. So you have 3 minutes to rebut.
All right. Thank you again for your time.
Great. Thank you. All right. Board comments. Tom, you want to start?
I'll go up. This is a fairly quick one, I think. First of all, I think it's a very appropriate location for the ADU and the associated deck, et cetera, the walkways and so forth. I saw no impact on neighbors. I think, and the fact that it does not have impact on neighbors is reflected by the fact that we received no opposition or concerns regarding the project. It's clearly neighborhood compatible. I think the articulation is consistent with the house and certainly qualifies as good articulation and compliance with the guidelines. I have reviewed the geotechnical report. Thank you for sending it to me. While it's not technically within our review, it's important to ascertain whether any potential CEQA impacts there are. I think it's an excellent, I've read a lot of them in my career, and this is an excellent one, and I think it is going to serve you well in constructing it pursuant to the conditions and requirements set forth in that. I can't tell you how steep that is, how important that is, that it be followed meticulously to prevent what could be serious problems later on. I think all guidelines are satisfied with respect to the revocable encroachment permit. I think the plan for that encroachment is all typical of what we see for that. Totally appropriate. I agree with the staff's findings with respect to that, and that's an easy one for me, I support the revocable encroachment permit. With that said, I support your project.
Ms. Coveney?
Okay, I concur with Board Member Gibbs. I think you've met all the design review criteria. I think it's going to look great. I think removing that tree is going to be actually beneficial to the neighbors. Obviously, the REP seems appropriate. And I also want to just thank you particularly for having reached out to all the neighbors and having gone door to door to make sure nobody had any issues. That we really appreciate that as a board. So I can get behind the project tonight. You meet all design review criteria.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weil?
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues. It's consistent with the design review guidelines. The revocable encroachment permit is definitely appropriate for this location. I think it's a great use of a through lot in design and layout. I also think it increases the access and fire safety components to not only this house, but the neighborhood and potential. So for that, I can support the project fully.
Right? And I agree with my colleagues. I think you did, again, I would like to say your outreach to the neighbors was excellent. It just removes a lot of issues that can come down the road unexpectedly. So I can support the project. It meets all the design review guidelines. And so I'll entertain a motion for the project.
Chair, I move that the board adopt Resolution 24-2471, approving design review 24-2471, coastal development permit 24-2472, and revocable encroachment permit 24-2295 for the project as described in the staff report. I don't think I need to read it all. And that we find said action exempt from CEQA, California Environmental Qualities Act, under 15303 of the CEQA guidelines.
Second.
Great. Maria, let's take a roll call.
Board Member Coveney?
Yes.
Board Member Gibbs?
Yes.
Board Member Weil?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Tallman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And congratulations. All right, next item. We're moving right along. It's not even 5:30 yet. Last meeting, will get us out by 6 o'clock, hopefully, huh? All right, the next item is item 5.3 at 1504 Skyline Drive. And Mr. Wank, you have a staff report for us.
You want to do,
Here,
ex parte?
I'd call for an expedited hearing as well.
I would agree with that, but we need to do,
Okay,
Ex
ex parte.
yeah. So I met with Chad Peterson at the site.
And I drove by the site and spoke with Chad on the phone.
And I drove by the site and took a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I went by
And
the
left a card.
site, had to kind of walk around, trespass on the property a little bit, and just
Unfortunately,
got my perspective of it, but didn't have any questions.
Great. All right, Mr. Wank. An expedited staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Design Review Board and members of the public. Item 5.3 is a request for design review and a variance at 1504 Skyline Drive located in the R1 zone. The proposed project includes modifications to a prior approval, including upper level additions, elevated deck additions, exterior material changes, a new trellis and landscaping. A variance is requested to exceed the allowable building height per the special subdivision height standard of 14 feet above the mean front curb height. The proposed addition areas that exceed the maximum allowable height can be seen here in red. Staff has not received any neighbor concerns regarding this project. Staff recommends that the board conduct a public hearing and by motion adopt Resolution 25-0143, approving design review 25-0143 and variance 25-0142, and finding said action exempt from CEQA. That will conclude my staff summary, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wank. All right, you have 5 minutes to present as the applicants.
Okay, good evening. My name is Chad Peterson. I'm with DRC and Associates Architecture. This is Jeff Curzon. He's with the landscape team. Is it not on? Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Thank you, board, and thank you, Garrett. That was a great, quick presentation. We don't have much to add other than that we're really excited to give a great refresh to a project that has both mountain views and ocean views. So it's a really special house, and we're doing a lot more on the inside to, bring this home back to life. But we're excited for it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board or staff? Any questions to staff? All right, the public hearing is open. If anyone would like to speak on the item 5.3 at 1504 Skyline Drive, please come to the podium. And I don't see any ghosts. I don't see anyone coming to the podium whatsoever. So you have 3 minutes to rebut that. So
Again, thank you all. It's been great.
great. Okay. At this point, I'll ask for any board discussion, deliberation.
Want to start? Yeah, this is a modest project. It's, I think, like you described, most of the changes are really occurring in the inside of the structure with just some minor expansions, just kind of on the front and side. I think that's what I saw. Other than that, it meets the design review criteria. It's neighborhood compatible, doesn't block any views, and I didn't see any privacy concerns.
Anyone else?
I'll concur with that statement. It's in keeping with the existing design. You're just expanding on it a bit. I think that the only was the extra height, and I think that you're not impeding anybody's views or any privacy issue, and it doesn't add to mass and scale, so you're fine there. So I think you've met the required design review requirements, and I can get behind the project.
Great.
All right, I have very little to add. Obviously, it's modest, has no impact on neighbors, no opposition. It's neighborhood compatible, and I see no articulation problems. In fact, I think it's well designed for what you're doing, meets all guidelines. With respect to the variance, the height limitation, or the findings set forth in the staff report on pages 11 through 13 are incredibly well written and detailed. Garrett, good job. And I think present an overwhelming case for issuing the variance. I have nothing to add. I support all of those findings. So with that, I approve the project.
And I would add that I did look at the variance findings as well. I was quite impressed. It's a very, as Board Member Weil mentioned, it's a modest addition. So it meets all the design review criteria. And I don't think I have anything else to add other than I can support the project tonight. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'm going to motion because I got the thumbs up from Lewis. I am going to request that we adopt resolution number 250143 for property at 1504 Skyline, design review 250143 and variance 250142 for modifications to a prior approval, including upper level additions, elevated deck additions, exterior material changes, and a new trellis, landscaping, and various variants to exceed the allowable buildable height, and finding said action exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15301.
Second.
Okay. Second, Maria?
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
motion carried.
Congratulations. I can't believe we're on the last item for tonight, and it's item 5.4.
You could take an hour recess if you'd like.
I think I want to beat the record. It's only 5:35. All right, the item 5.4 is the last item this evening, 505 Bluemont Street. And Garrett is presenting. I'll take
Do ex parte?
ex parte. Yeah.
I'll start. I met Brian Joette and owner John Lone. I also met with Allison Lee Kofi, Gary Berman, and Jean Marquez.
Same.
And I met with the Coffees and Mr. Berman and visited the site.
Yeah, and I met with the Coffees, Mr. Berman, Brian, and the homeowner, and I went to the site first time and then again after the restaking.
Mr. Wank, would you like to give us another fine staff report?
Absolutely. Item 5.4 is a request for design review at 505 Bluemont Street, located in the R1 zone. The property is currently developed with a single-family dwelling with an attached one-car garage. This project was previously heard at the October 10th, 2024 design review meeting and continued to the January 23rd, 2025 meeting with board direction. This is the third hearing for the project. On January 23rd, 2025, the board continued the item to the April 10th, 2025 design review hearing with direction. However, the project was renoticed for tonight's hearing in order to allow for the project to be heard by the current board. At the October 10th, 2024 hearing, the board expressed concerns relating to articulation, view equity, privacy, neighborhood compatibility, design integrity, mass and scale. And the board also raised concerns regarding the decorative pavers within the public right-of-way. The proposed project includes demolishing an existing single-family dwelling with an attached one-car garage and constructing a new single-family dwelling with an attached two-car garage, elevated decks, spa, grading, and landscaping. In response to the board's comments, the southwest portion of the structure has been pulled back an additional 2 feet from the property line of 511 Bluemont. The deck has been pulled back 2 feet 11 inches from 511 Bluemont. A privacy shield has been proposed on the deck. However, the neighbor at 511 Bluemont indicated that they would not like to have a privacy screen added. The REP has been updated to show the decorative paving having been removed, and as such, the REP is no longer part of this application. The plate heights have been reduced from 10 feet to 9 feet 6 inches. The semi-transparent fence has been replaced with a solid block wall. The dwarf New Zealand Christmas tree previously proposed has been replaced with 3 dwarf citrus trees. And the staff report identifies that the building has been pulled in 1 foot from 471 Bluemont. However, the proposed structure actually remains the same distance from 471 Bluemont as the prior plans. Staff has received public correspondence from 3 neighbors with concerns regarding the project, primarily related to view equity, privacy, mass and scale, and neighborhood compatibility. Staff recommends that the board conduct a public hearing and by motion adopt Resolution 24-1652, approving Design Review 24-1652 and finding said action exempt from CEQA. That will conclude my staff summary, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wank. Any questions of staff?
Can you just reiterate again what you said about 471 Bluemont and pulling in from that?
Yes, the staff report indicated that the building had been pulled in 1 foot from 471 Bluemont. That was actually a portion of the patio. The structure itself remains in the same location.
Okay, thank you. I had a question regarding this staking plan. Is this the most recent staking plan? Was that a certified staking plan?
It was a certified staking plan.
I have a question about it. I noticed that the staking did not go along there was like a stick standing alone, and the ribbon did not go along the Kofi's property by the, except down below, but from the street to their front door. Why is that?
I've asked the applicant to be available to respond to your questions regarding staking. They may be able to.
No,
respond
how
to
does that comply with the staking requirement not to have that ribbon go along where the eave edge is from the front of the garage by the street all the way down to the end of the garage, which goes through the entryway? So I just don't know how that how that meets the requirements. So anyway, I point that out.
Yeah, along those lines, there was some question regarding the eaves being depicted in the staking. So maybe let's listen to the applicant's presentation, then we can ask
Yeah,
questions.
if you can explain why the staking complies with the requirements in your presentation, I'd appreciate it.
All right, you have 5 minutes, and the public hearing is now open.
There we go. Congrats, Christine, on your years of service. Thank you for being part of this process. We've enjoyed working with you, as well as all the board members. So thank you for your time. John and Sam are excited about moving this forward and have welcomed your feedback and worked with the neighbors prior to our first hearing and multiple times to get to a solution that everyone can be somewhat happy with. I've heard that a sign of a good deal is when no one gets everything that they want. You've all heard the song and dance before about the design process, so I won't bore you with a third. But I do want to share just a few benchmarks of the design illustrating where we started at the first submittal versus where we are now. Since the first iteration of the floor plan, we have reduced the street level living area, 197 square feet, to 1,050. This is 100 square feet less than the existing living square feet of 1,150 that's on the ground level. The overall width of the home was maxed out to the side yard setbacks, and now we have pulled the south side in 5'6", which is inside the face of the existing structure, the living room portion of the home. And the north side of the home has come off the setback line 1'6". The deck off the living room was 720 square feet and has now been reduced more than half to 308 square feet. The plate height of the great room started at 11 feet and has now been lowered 18 inches to 9'6". The exterior aesthetic started with all stucco and stone and flat roofs. We have now switched all the stucco to wood siding to soften the look there, and incorporated a hip roof element at the entry, the front door, to address the more traditional street context of Bluemont. The pool and the spa, originally planned at 34 feet long by 8 feet, span the majority of the lot width. The pool has now been eliminated, and a spa is proposed at 13.5 by 8. And one last point, Garrett, if you wouldn't mind pulling up that exhibit of the street section. This shows a street section cut through Bluemont, looking at 505, and also showing the two neighboring properties. And there's been some conversation about how much bigger this design is. And just so we wanted to illustrate in, a visual to describe that bulk and massing is basically, while the square footage of the home may be bigger than neighboring properties, which I don't know what those square footages are, but much of that square footage is below grade. So this shows what is basically sticking up above at street level. So that we were well within the rights to propose a two-story structure. There's two-story homes along Bluemont, but we decided to put that square footage below grade at the expense of the owner to preserve those views and be lower than the existing structure. And all that to say, the owner first proposed a home within the zoning limits of the city and was not asking for any variances. After the past two hearings, we have worked to develop thoughtful changes to the design that are respectful to the neighbors and to your comments, and also to the owner's wishes and goals. They want to spend, a good amount of money to improve their property, the street of Bluemont, and the community. And we hope that you view the project in the same way. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
So Brian, to the point of the staking of the eaves, that is reflecting the eaves?
Yeah,
as
so
well?
the garage itself does not have any eave overhang, so it's just basically like a parapet wall that goes straight up. So you were mentioning, which string line were you mentioning?
Yeah, this is the question I had. There was no string line from along Kofi's property where the garage goes, which is adjoining the entry to their front door. I didn't see a string. I saw a stick, but both on the original time I went and then when I went back this morning. And all this is like a stick standing there with nothing attached to it. I can
Yes.
show you pictures, but
If you have a picture, that'd be great. That may be better to see.
I'm not sure if that's when you you go into the pantry area, if that is, so you didn't represent that because.
Yeah,
it's
some of the
interior.
times the staking points are basically inside the volume of the home. So obviously the staking is additive to what is currently there. It never, shows what's inside the home, because you can't really stake that.
Any other questions? Board?
oh, there we go. You see, it doesn't go, I'm looking, it doesn't go along the line. And then here is,
Yeah, that's showing the back. So there's a section where that comes into the house itself.
but there's no, see, there's no, there's nothing going along their house. So if you can see this, this is where,
Do you
and I'll
mind if
make
I
it part of
come
the
up and-
record. Here, let me come over.
Can you email it to
You want me to email
Garrett?
it to you?
To Gary or Garrett?
All right, let me do that.
In the meantime, can we put up the proposed north elevation that was put in the staff report? doing two things at once here.
I just emailed it to you, Garrett. Oop.
Okay, I'll get that pulled up.
Yeah, I'm sending it without a subject. Let me see if there's any other pictures of it. Let me go to the end here because I came back to it.
Does the board have any other comments for the applicant?
This could be a city question too, possibly, but I know that the garage doesn't have any eaves. I know that the story poles in the back reflect the overhang. Sorry about that little back and forth. The sides of the home, the story poles do not represent the eaves. They just represent the house, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the side eave overhangs are basically a foot, so those were not staked.
It's okay. I just wanted to confirm that. Is that something we have to do, stake eaves, or no? I know we have it in the past, but I think it was brought up by Mr. Berman that they needed to be staked, and I don't think we do, but I just wanted to be sure.
We'd have to refer to that and read the code right now.
Okay,
I don't
take
know
your
the answer
time. I
off the
just
top
thought
of my
I'd throw
head.
it out there just so we could make the neighbors understand that if we missed anything, but I don't think so.
My understanding is they need to stake eaves. Yeah,
I believe
we always do.
that's been the case, yeah.
Yeah, always do.
The only time it is not staked is if it's been heard before by the board and the building structure is reduced in size.
We've seen. in the
That's my
past that it's
recollection.
Typically, any overhang past a foot, you would stake. Because generally within 12 inches, that's like.
Okay, we just need clarification, maybe.
Garrett, have you gotten the
Vice Chair,
photo?
the municipal code does require that the eaves be staked.
Yeah.
Any size? It doesn't,
I can read it's short. It's
okay.
staking poles and connecting ribbons which accurately represent the full extent of the proposed structure, including decks and eaves, shall be constructed at least 21 calendar days prior to, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ask a clarifying thing. The whole roof is not an eave, just the one front portion over the entryway.
So yeah, the eave, the hip roof has an eave that extends past the building envelope from the front door out towards the street, and then also to the side yards, which is a foot. And then the back eave that we did stake, because that is more significant, that's 4 feet, that is represented in the staking.
And the garage does not have an eave.
The garage has no eaves. Yeah, it's a straight up parapet wall.
Okay. I just want to make sure the staking's okay with this. Did you get the photo, Garrett?
I did, yeah, I can pull that up for you now.
Yeah, pull the second one up. That's probably a better one if you can get that one. This is what I'm talking about. When it goes up. Okay, I'm at the Kofi's front door or near it, and you can see that there's one stick standing up there with a ribbon that goes toward the house, but there's no ribbon going along the house. I assume that's the height of the garage. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to understand where is,
We see that other image too.
yeah.
I'm standing on the coffee side. That's the
Okay.
hedge looking right where the garage is. This is another picture of
Okay, yeah,
it.
yeah.
And you can see there's no ribbon going along showing the ridge
Oh,
line of the
that's
garage.
That
That's
side.
the very front of the garage, because the existing garage projects more than the code, the setback, front setback allows. So that's where the very face of the garage starts and then goes back.
The existing garage is non-conforming within the front set.
I see. So it's being pushed back.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that section from the front of the existing garage back to that stake is all being removed.
Okay. I understand.
Or let me see if I understand this. You're saying that the garage starts where that post is?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's open in front of the post.
Yes.
All right. There's still nothing that goes vertical, goes horizontal between the Kofi's and the house showing the line of the garage.
Yeah, the stake that Mary had sent to you, the revised that was the corner of the kitchen, which basically then has a ribbon going from the corner of the kitchen all the way back to the.
Yeah, I'm
backyard
not
of our
talking
home.
about that. The garage goes
Okay.
from the front point by the street to the back of the garage, right?
Yep.
There's no ribbon for that. No,
It's
it
right
isn't.
at that
It's
same height
further out.
as the stake.
So you just have to imagine it. You didn't put a stretch of ribbon to show where the,
Yeah.
does that comply with the requirements, Patrick? No, it isn't. It's 2 feet out.
Right, so I mean, I must admit, I didn't visit the site. I believe I understand what you're saying. All I can say is that the including decks and eaves needs to be required. So I guess I'm having a hard time spatially understanding it.
Okay, just so, I think that, the board in its discretion can determine whether the staking is adequate to give proper notice, but I can tell you it does concern me. So why don't we go on?
Is that true? We have discretion on staking?
I believe that you do.
Okay.
I think there is a missing ribbon that runs along that side between the coffees for the edge of the garage.
Yeah, but you can just match it up to the
It's
back.
just not
yeah.
in the photographs that you see there, but I think you would use your discretion to see, can you visualize it? Can you visualize what the building will be in that location at that height, and does it affect your deliberations? The only thing I would otherwise suggest is that if you'd have restaked, but I don't know what value
And
that would
whether
be,
or
but
not
it's up
that
to
has-
you. It's up to the board.
And I would assume whether or not that has an impact to neighbors.
I'm also wondering if it fell. These staking are literally twigs, right? The string. So it wouldn't be uncommon occasionally for a string to fall.
There have been past projects where they have fallen due to wind and storms and different things.
Yeah.
So
Okay, why don't we open up the public hearing and invite members of the public to speak on item 5.4, 505 Bluemont Street. If you please come up to the podium.
Hello, my name is Elise Coffey. My husband Lee, 2 sons, and I live at 471 Bluemont Street. We greatly appreciate that you visited our property to view the story poles and to listen to our concerns. We've owned our property for 24 years. Our home is on the historic register and is located next door to 505 Bluemont Street. When we restored our home, the Heritage Committee required us to maintain our front door's location next to the 505 Bluemont Street property. Thus, our entryway, family room, and kitchen are located on the south side of our house, and consequently, some of our ocean views are towards the southwest portion of our property. The Laguna Beach Design Guidelines state, when the existing pattern of building setbacks has created a desirable effect in a neighborhood, that pattern should be respected in order to maintain that benefit and minimize or eliminate impacts to views, light, air, and privacy. Guideline 12.1 states, site a building with maximum consideration for privacy issues, maintain adequate setbacks from neighboring properties. Our south side of our house provides setbacks that are 9 feet 2 inches and 12 feet 1 inch based on the applicant's surveyor's boundary line. By contrast, their proposed structure has 4 foot 3 and 5 foot 9 setbacks next to our property. The proximity of the proposed structure does not respect the historic significance of our home. The structure negatively impacts our entryway, privacy, and views. The northwest side of the structure negatively impacts our ocean view from our kitchen. Yesterday, 2 story poles were moved closer to our property. In addition, the eaves on the north side were not staked, and they would significantly block our ocean view. And the garage story poles were not connected with a string. The structure is on land at a lower elevation than our property, but it looms over our property. During the December 2023 neighborhood meeting and during the October and January meetings, we expressed our concern. During the January DRB meeting, Board Member Thalman and Board Member Gibbs requested that the structure be pulled back by at least a foot next to our property. Unfortunately, the applicant did not increase it. We urged the board to require that the applicant increase their side yard setback next to our property by at least a foot, require that the wall be 4 feet from our smaller cottage, and that the wall aligns with the adjacent Bent Street property wall. Also, that the wall is finished on our side, and reduce the plate heights of the structure as was recommended in the January DRB meeting. We hope that our concerns and the concerns of our neighbors are addressed and solved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Yeah. If you could, if you are going to speak, if you would line up behind the next person so we can get out of here by 6:30.
No way, not happening.
No, it's not going to happen, right?
Hi, Tom Berryman. My wife Stephanie and I live at 480 Bluemont, the other corner from the Bermans. Lived there since 2010 and lived in Laguna over 40 years. You received my letter yesterday. I'm not going to repeat those comments, but here's a couple essential points. First, the DRB guidelines, which really specifically address projects adjacent to historic structures, stating that the project should be compatible in style, size, and mass, have really been ignored from the beginning in this project. Even if you believe that the architectural style of the proposed house can work in this location, there's really no defendable rationale for approving something more than double the size and mass of the neighboring historic homes. This wasn't made very clear at the beginning of this wasn't made very clear at the beginning of the application, I think, is a failure in the review process. But even without this, the applicants and the architect can read, and this is all expressly stated in the guidelines. But the architectural style house horse is out of the barn. Bluemont Street will no doubt see more of these designs, probably sooner than later. So we're left with how to mitigate the impact of this project on the neighbors, which is my second point. The board at both the first and the second hearings gave some pretty explicit instructions to the applicants, and especially at the last meeting with respect to the sides that affect the Coffees and Mrs. Marquez and indirectly the Bermans. You instructed them to pull the deck in further to give Mrs. Marquez more privacy. They pulled it in 6 inches. You said the standard around here for plate height is 9 feet. They lowered it to 9.6. You explicitly said, and I quote, pull the north side in at least 1 foot. The latest revision pulls it in 0. You also instructed the applicants to work with the neighbors. If that instruction had been followed in spirit, I think you'd have 1 or more of the 3 directly impacted neighbors supporting the project. These are all reasonable folks. I know them personally. I know they would prefer to support the project. But all 3 of them have provided or will provide, yet again, very detailed reasons for why they still cannot. Given that several of the board's instructions from the last hearing have been addressed with token concessions or ignored entirely, and that none of the directly impacted neighbors support the project, I feel the board's only recourse is to require the applicants to try again. I know that's unfortunate and undesirable and perhaps rare, but the rule is there for a reason. And when it's not invoked, it should be because, or when it is invoked, it should be because the applicants have not adequately addressed the legitimate needs of the neighbors and the neighborhood at large. I believe that's the case we have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Jean Marquez, 511 Bluemont Street. Thank you all for coming and for listening to our concerns. While I do appreciate some of the changes that have been made, I still have many concerns about mostly my lack of privacy. The deck has been reduced in size, but its placement still allows a direct view into my living area. Board members Ms. Gannon, Mr. Gibbs, and Ms. Coveney suggested that the deck be pulled back in at the January 23rd meeting. On January 30th, I met with the Lowndes to share my continuing concerns. They offered a privacy screen, which I thanked them for, and said that I thought it would be helpful. I told them that pulling the deck back in would be great in helping retain my privacy, and they said that they could not pull the deck in. Unfortunately, the privacy screen would negatively further impact the Bourbon's view equity, and so I'm simply requesting the deck be brought in. Section B, Chapter 12.3 of the Design Review Criteria states, give thoughtful consideration to the siting and design of outdoor spaces. Locate outdoor activity areas away from noise or sensitive view-sensitive portions of adjacent properties. I'm asking if these guidelines be followed. I also request that the north wall structure be brought back in by at least 1 foot, as instructed by board members Mr. Gibbs and Ms. Stauman, to lessen the impact on the privacy and view of the Coffees. And the structure height should be brought down more, as instructed by board members, to provide greater view equity for the Bermans. Thank you all for your time and consideration, and congratulations, Ms. Stauman.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for having me here tonight. In particular, Christine, thank you for your continued or your service at this point. It's really appreciated. And going through this process on the other end, it really is a thankless job, but a job that is really important to this entire community. So again, thank you. I'm just going to start with the architects. I'm just a little confused. This is the second out of 3 DRB meetings where the stakes are inaccurately represented. The guidelines are pretty clear, and I'm not sure how that happens time and again. And as we discussed tonight, you will see the intent is to solve. We need to solve problems and move forward. But I do urge that we make sure that we are accurate and follow the guidelines and rules that exist here in Laguna Beach. There are going to be no real winners here. We are going to lose view. I'm losing view from my kitchen. A really awesome view when we moved in was like, wow, to my wife, I will now do the dishes because I get to look down a corridor and look at the ocean. Over 50% of that is now going to disappear. But that being said, I took a step back. And the reality is we have to work together. So last night, I went over to John's house and said, look, DRB is doing their best, but we need to do better. And let's try to find a way to work together. We came up with some compromises that affect myself. The intention was to solve for my house, Jean's house, and the Coffees because we're all neighbors. And one of the best parts about this experience has been getting to know them better. There are a few things I want to call out that John did agree to and that we want to make sure are in the record. On the south side, he's going to completely eliminate the eaves. Nothing above the garage height line. Replace the dwarf citrus trees with a slower species that grows at a max of 6 feet. At his suggestion, and I agree with, replace the articulated southeast hip roof with just a flat lower level roof that provides an ocean view for us and also aligns with it just fits with their plan because I think the intention of the articulation should have been across the whole house, not just a part of it. Now, in part, I think there's a solve here as we think about the Coffees and we think about Jean. It's not a lot. The Coffees want the house lowered. John, you and I talked today, maybe we do 9.4 on the top floor, 9.4 on the bottom floor. I think that would go really far, and I would be supportive of that. They want an adjustment on that north side property line. Let's try to make that happen. We talked about getting there. Let's see what we can do. Fix the north wall. And then with Jean, let's try to help her with her deck. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to having a constructive discussion today so that John gets what he wants and the neighbors can leave feeling that we can be a solid neighborhood and move forward as what the Street of Bluemont has always been. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Any other speakers? Okay, the applicant team has 3 minutes to rebut.
Thank you. Yeah, so the staking, so we provide a staking plan which follows the design, and that is given to a surveyor who then puts up the stakes. So we personally are not putting those up, and they are certifying that. So we're relying on the surveyor to certify that, which they did. To say that it's wrong or not, I couldn't say that, or if it's right, but I know that it's certified. So I think if we were having to restake by a different company, maybe that's a solution to make sure that we got it right. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. We can't really do much more on the staking, other than recertify it by another company, I think would be a possible solution.
I mean, a lot of it too is about the intent of the staking, and I feel like we do understand the intent of the size of the home.
Speak in the mic, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really about the intent, right? Like if I were to stake the home perfectly, that would be really expensive in the amount of stakes it would take to carry every articulation. So we are just trying to understand the massing. We're understanding where the walls are, where the overhangs are, and where the impacts are for the neighbor. If they're unsatisfied to it, they can bring up that attention to anything, but it really is for all of us to understand what the massing is and where the pain points are, which we've understand even before we went to a DRB meeting where the pain points were of all the neighbors, understood it well. We're also getting to a point too where, John just wants to have a home he can live in as well. We know that the Coffees want us to move the wall in. I wish it can go in 10 feet, and I know that next door, the Bermans would like that corridor improved. We're getting to a very narrow house here, and Ms. Marquez doesn't want us to go backwards or further back into the property either for privacy. So, you see we're on a very small footprint here. We're barely at 1,000 square feet, and we're less square feet living than is enjoyed right now by the property. The city didn't want to work with us in moving the garage forward into the setback. We also didn't want to be in a position to be in variances and work with the current zoning. So I think on all sides, what we've been working towards is compromise. But at some point too, the homeowner, the person who's trying to enjoy this home, they come up to a wall too, where they're like, look, like you give, and somebody's always going to want more. And I guess that's why the DRB is here as well, is to understand like where the compromises have been met, how far we've been pushed, and whether or not, we've gotten to a good point or good enough point where we're almost solving most of these issues.
So what about the suggestion by Mr. Berman, the few changes that were suggested? Did you have any response to that?
Yeah, so Mr. Berman was suggesting the flat roof versus the hip roof. The hip roof was included, I think, because of previous suggestions in relating to the street context. So Mr. Lown was okay with going back to the flat roof if the committee here is okay with that as well. So that would not be a problem to do, to switch that hip roof out and make it flat so that there's more view over the top of that structure there. So that's not a problem if we wanted to make it flat.
And the plate heights?
The plate heights were reduced to 9.6. They
And they
could be
said just
reduced to
2 inches.
9, potentially. That would be a decision, I think, for Mr. Lown.
We did reach out to the civil engineer to see how low we could lower the first floor as well, so we could still park our car and get into the home
Right.
and make drainage. He has told us that we've gotten as far as we've gotten without having to land and then go downstairs to a lower level. And for the most part too, we keep talking about how big this home is. You got rid of the whole basement, which is currently in the grade. Like, we're looking at a small home here. We really are. Even if John at some point conceded the basement, right? We don't have really room right now to put a bedroom on the main floor. There isn't a big bedroom there. This I feel like is a very strong consideration from the start. I mean, he's putting all the bedrooms below grade, and we're just trying to get a living area up here, and we've conceded, and I feel like it's gotten really pinched. So, I mean, I see a lot of consideration here, but it's, who's going to measure that? Who determines what's fair for the neighbors and also fair, for John as a homeowner just trying to build a home that he wants to live in.
Yeah, the garage is pushed as low as it can go based on the city code for the maximum slope of the driveway. So the garage is kind of set at the lowest, and also the minimum height within the space itself.
But moving 1 foot over for the Coffees would be problematic, is what you're
So
saying.
the garage width is at, I think, 20'9". That could potentially go to 20 feet wide. So we could pull that side in on the Coffees, pull it in 9 inches. But the minimum garage size, we're dealing with that per code. And then the more we scoot it over to, the south, then it starts to impact Berman views. So it is a balance there.
And we only have an entrance and a stairway on that left side. I mean, it's not like there's a room or any large space next to the garage. We're barely getting enough room architecturally, honestly, to design towards the street. Most of our facade is the city mandated 2-car enclosed garage.
Right, well,
which we've minimized.
the reason I ask it, gentlemen, is this is your 3rd hearing.
Can you
Very
move it
important
over
here,
a
so-
foot? Can you move the garage over a foot? Which is what at least 2 of us asked at the last meeting.
9 inches, he said.
The garage is at 4'3" to the setback. It's at the closest to the setback. It goes along the entryway of the Coffees. And I made a comment about that last time. I think Chair Thalman did too. Can you push it back a foot?
We could definitely move the garage. We can move the garage wall in and keep basically the front door side of the garage where it is and move it, the coffee side in 9 inches for sure. If we wanted to take the whole garage, the front door and the stairs and move that over a foot, we potentially could, but that would impact the Berman views.
Well, I mean, you've got an entry on the left side, because I'm going to work with you, but I also am very concerned. And if it can be done tonight with all of these changes. So anyway, I just want you to be aware of that. If you can, you've got an entryway on the left side there. It seems to me you have play enough to move it over a foot.
We can move the garage over a foot.
Okay, thanks.
Just the garage.
Yeah, I'll do it in
Can I ask you a quick question about the, may I go, Chair? If you go to a flat roof, does that cause you any interior issue with what you were planning to have interior wise? So it's just an aesthetic, and originally you had a flat roof, and then I think.
Yes, originally it was flat, and that hip roof element is over just the foyer space and stair. So if that went back to flat, we weren't proposing any vaulted space there anyway.
Right.
Within that hip, so it'd be fine to go back.
Yeah, it appears you just have a flat ceiling there with inset lighting. Okay. What would your material be then? Would that be like standing seam, do you think, or would you stick with the?
It would be the similar eave metal fascia
metal
as
fascia.
the rest of the eaves, yes.
Great.
Any other questions?
So I'm going to ask, fencing is a tough one within the design review parameters, but it was brought up as concerns and we talked about it at the site. How did you guys proceed to do the fencing, or how did you guys want to make changes to the fencing on the north side?
Yeah, so the north side originally had a fencing that was similar to what's shown in the front rendering, where it's more of just like a vertical metal slat that is semi-transparent. Based on the discussion of the privacy with the coffees, that entire side property line wall, we changed it to a solid block wall for maximum privacy and also just to meet the pool code requirements there. And the Lowndes have offered to pay for any replacement of planting, the hedge on the coffee side, to make sure that they still have green on their side of the fence.
The front part of the historic.
Speak in the mic, sir.
The
For
front
the
part
record.
of their historic railing that comes on our property and up to halfway into the drive area. We want them to be able to keep that. So we're going to allow that stay on our property. We offered that as
Okay.
well.
And then I think the last concern regarding the fencing was like how it angled towards the rear of the property to either connect to the block wall that's on the back, or where it was proposed, I guess, was shifting slightly over closer to that historical cottage that's at the back of theirs.
I think we were, from the way I understood is we were going to extend the wall, the back wall there to meet, so there's no gap there to meet the fence.
There's a cinder block wall that goes along the back of your property.
Right.
And that's the one they wanted to join right in there. And I think they estimated it would be 4 feet from their building.
Right.
I just want to make sure that the copy's got it right.
Yeah,
So-
I just want to
So it
make
would
sure,
join at that block wall.
as long as do we want to join that, do we want to extend the block wall to join so that the fence is straight?
I think
or
they
do we
want
wanna-
4 feet from the lower story.
I think my understanding was that they just, instead of extending the block wall to meet the thing.
Yeah.
Just the wall comes to meet.
I think there's
the
some
end point
fire
of the
lane,
block.
as long as we have the fire lane requirements, I'm.
That's at the
I
back
don't
of your
know that.
property. You don't have a fire.
There's no fire.
Yeah, that's just, when
Yeah.
I met with your architect, and you were there too, I think you said you have play in the back of the yard there. So that's what I'm talking about.
Block extended or, yeah.
So yeah, the current proposal shows the fence parallel to the cottage, and it's showing, I think, 3'3" clearance which the fire code asks is 3 feet. So it meets that requirement now, but to, provide that 4 foot, they're talking about, angling that wall into your property. And if you're okay with that,
Gives them the 4 foot at an angle. So just so we understand what it is they want, if it's an angle to that corner, that's fine. So they'll basically go from 3 foot out to maybe whatever that,
Well, I think
that
it
ends
was
up.
more just like, instead of running the line as you had like where the pin was like 5 or 6 inches
Right.
off that wall, move that line to the wall.
Yeah.
So you're saying the whole wall or just at that back?
Just, I mean, as you run your angle, you'll catch up to
Yeah.
your property line.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're on the same page.
So you're
Yeah.
clear.
that was my understanding of the request. But it's not to go take
I do
parts
have
of
a
your
question
property.
about-
It's just run the wall.
Well, there was a question regarding the property line as well, I think, but that's a separate question. Any other comments or questions from the board, I should say? Any questions from the board at all? No? All right, I'll declare the public hearing is closed. And we'll start with board deliberation.
Can I start?
MJ, go ahead.
Go ahead, MJ.
I'll try to be quick. I don't know why I want to go first, but I'm gonna. I want to start with good news. I can support this project. So let me tell you why, and let me tell the neighbors why I come to this conclusion. Today was a big day because I actually drove back over there and looked at the stakes. I think last hearing, I was okay with the coffee wall the way it was. I was concerned about some of the Berman issues, which I think have been addressed. When I came down, I went up Hill Ridge or something and did a little turnaround and came down, and the coffee's house, your house was dwarfed with your story poles by their house. So I kept seeing your house for some reason in my head as this big thing right on the street, taller than everybody. And as you showed in your presentation tonight, where it sits within the two homes, but specifically the coffee house because it's a heritage house, I don't feel like your mass and scale is of any issue. I don't think your plate heights are of any issue because you are lower than the other houses due to the excavation in order to achieve what you need in the back. As far as your overall coverage of the lot, as you pointed out, your footprint isn't that large. You're extending out the back, which presently the house doesn't have anything out underneath that top deck, and it doesn't extend out. So you're extending out to gather your square footage. Makes total sense. So I don't think your mass and scale is an issue. It would be great, and I think you're going to hear from the other board members, to give the coffees a little more. The foot to me is like, but if that makes the thing come together, then that's fine. I look at my shoe and I think that's a foot. Wow. I don't, if it was 4 feet, I'd be adding on that can make a difference, but it's important to them, and I'll let the board discuss what they think about that. I don't see it as an issue, even with the addition of the 1 foot overhang. These overhangs are pretty lean and clean looking, and I would hate for you to lose them, especially in that foyer section. I think it supports the look of your house along the side, and if you start to chop away at those architectural elements, I think that the house loses its character, and I think that's important, especially since the house is set back with the garage with beautiful organic materials, and it's a soft entrance into this house. The rest of the neighborhood, I can go through 449, 447, 470, 423 Hill Edge. Huge houses in this neighborhood. Now, granted, you're next to a heritage cottage, so we want to be more sympathetic as the guidelines recommend and request. But I do think your house mass and scale is not fighting with the coffees at all. The story pole world. These things are always difficult. I think that what you have there has been adjusted. I think, to Tom's point, that missing piece is you just have to be able to visualize it. The one that's down in the back of the yard is actually coming forward. It's a small it's a small, I don't think it's worth holding up the project for. I don't think it's worth holding up the project because of the 1-foot eaves. We often get projects before us that do not represent the eaves, and we're able to sometimes say with the 2-foot, because a lot of times they're 2 foot or more, that they're going to have to come in on those eaves because it's either extending into the setback or it's just too large because of the limited setbacks. I have no problem with your flat roof if you're okay with that, and if it helps the Bermans get a better view. Plate heights I mentioned, because as the previous, your mass and scale is well in keeping in the height of your home in comparison to the homes beside it. As far as privacy, I think privacy has been met. There's one window presently that is in Miss Marquez's, which is you're still somewhat back from that window. Her decking is actually forward of your decking, so slightly. So I just don't feel like that one window has to make you take back your decking. If the board disagrees, then perhaps you can give her a couple feet there. I just don't think it may, if it really was going to make a big difference, I'd push you on it. But we get down to these little points that are so minute that once everything's there, it all starts to, if it was big and you were 8 feet in and you were straight on, and it'd be different, but you're back and you have a slight angle. It just feels like we're just really picking at every little detail. So I feel like privacy's been met. I feel like your design and your design articulation, as I mentioned in the last meeting, is spot on. I think your use of materials is spot on. I think you're neighborhood compatible, even with the added impact of a heritage home next door. I think you've taken care to try to find materials or downsizing this a little bit to keep the mass and scale down so it doesn't overpower the cottage. It's not, when you look at it as a cottage, it's quite a large cottage from the front. I think your REP is fine for what you need there. You've eliminated any kind of issue with public parking access. That's all still available. Your driveway is its proper width, so you're not stealing anything there. I thank you for allowing the copies to maintain that little area in the front there that kind of helps shape out their entrance to their home. And those are my points. So so as far as access, landscaping, lighting, neighbor compatible, mass and scale, design articulation, and integrity and privacy, I feel like you've reached all those with this house. Thank you.
Would you like to go next, Mr. Gibbs?
I agree with a lot of what my colleague says, but I disagree that 1 foot is insignificant. I mean, if 1 foot's significant, you go from 4.3 to 3.3. Why not 3 and why not 2.5? So I think it is significant. So I was disappointed that it was not moved in along the courtyard for the historical house. And I went back and listened to the tape. I made my views very clear. And it's the third hearing, which makes it even more important that you listen to the comments and you do your best to accommodate if it works. Or you can say no, in which case we have a yes or no decision. The Coffey's house is a historic house with an entry that's historic. I think we made that clear in the prior 2 hearings. And I'm not going to read all the guidelines that makes that important to consider. I think some of the comments were. But in the historical presence, the guideline 11.5 says where the project is located next to a historic structure, choose an architectural style that allows respect for the massing scale and level of articulation of the historic neighbor. And there's numerous other design criteria. For example, the design objective reads, when the existing pattern of building setbacks has created a desirable effect in the neighborhood, that pattern should be respected in order to maintain that benefit and minimize the eliminated impacts to view, light, air, and privacy. And it also talks about 11.12, stagger setbacks with respect to adjacent properties to avoid an undesirable tunnel effect. I could read others, but there's plenty of guidelines that call for dealing with setbacks where you've got an unusual situation of a historic house with a front door on the side of the house. And I had wished that you had designed the garage and that area to allow light and air into that area, because it's an important area to the house and to the character of the house. You've done a lot to deal with a lot of concerns that this project had with the neighbors, including allowing that front aspect of the Kofi's house to exist, and you're going to start the wall on the other side of that. But I came in here of the view that I would need a lot of convincing for me to support this project if that garage is going to stay at 4 foot 3 inches. However, you've told me that you're willing to move it back a foot. I think that's significant. And for my vote, that would be a necessary condition. With respect to the other aspects, I think I made my views rather clear. I thought the plate heights were too high, and I suggested they come down to 9 feet 6 inches. You've done that. I have gone to the Berman's property. From their ceremonial room, which is the most important room, is the living room. I think it's significantly better than it was, and it meets view equity. So I don't have a view equity issue. I'd like that building to come down further, even from the Kofi's perspective. But as I think I said before, I don't have I think you meet the guidelines with respect to that. You're entitled to build a second story, and you've gone down to have a lot of the house be, as you say, under or at grade, which I find to be neighborhood compatible. So with respect to the big issue in my mind to get my approval, and you said you're willing to do it, to move that garage over 1 foot. The other things you've agreed to do are also important, which is the block wall and to provide the landscaping to, along the wall on the Kofi side to maintain the character that would be appropriate. And that's something I think that is that in the landscape plan yet as to what you would be growing on the Kofi side? I don't think so. So the condition I would have there is to work with the Kofis, and it would be as per approval, by staff, if there is not an agreement.
Tom, were you talking about the dwarf trees?
Well, no, there's on the Kofi side, they're willing to, so they're going to build a wall, well, can you open the public hearing? I want to hear what the Kofis would like on that.
Okay, I think we heard that in the public. We've already heard their request. Do you think it's necessary to repeat
I don't
it?
remember. She says that they didn't want planning.
Okay, why don't we finish with,
We can't condition something to someone else's property on this application.
Why not?
not
They're
on
not-
somebody else's property?
What they were proposing is to provide landscaping for the neighbors
Right.
on the demolition of the existing wall and basically working together to repair any damaged plants on their side. That's their agreement. That's their civil agreement. We, as a board, can only condition things to the
On this
application that
property.
are in front of us.
I'm not sure that's correct, Louis. I mean, maybe Pat, if we make it a condition that they restore landscaping that they're taking out on the Kofi side. Remember, they're moving, the landscaping's on their side. I don't know. I'd like to know your answer to that because I don't know legally what the rule is.
I'll take a chance at this. I mean, I think that you can indicate in a condition that they work with the Kofis to restore the landscaping on their property and kind of leave it at that. Because if we create a condition that requires their approval, and if they never agree, are we going to just stop the project? We really don't want to be in that kind of a position. So I would just hope that the two neighbors can work together on restoring the landscaping there. And I think just a
How would that, I like what you just said. So what is the condition?
I would say that the applicant work with their neighbor to restore the landscaping on.
Yeah, I'd say work with neighbor to
Restore.
put in landscaping on the Kofi side of the wall.
Okay, to Board Member Wiles' comment, I remember this coming up previously. And I think the instruction from the board was to, that would be a civil agreement between the two neighbors or a memorandum of understanding or a gentleman's agreement, whatever you want to call it, but I don't know if it should be a condition.
I've read the whole zoning ordinance. Yeah, no, I mean, I think your position that you would be against making that a condition is fully appropriate, but I think we have the authority to have the condition as described by Mr.
To
Campbell.
work with the neighbor.
Yeah, to work with the neighbor to provide landscaping, and they've agreed
not
that they're
binding,
willing
though.
to do it.
Yeah, it's not binding, though.
Okay, let me get
Right.
to my other points.
Chairman, I mean, I've got a
Okay.
few, Board Member Gibbs, if I might, I think we want to make sure that this condition is, if they can't come to an agreement, the applicant has no right of access onto their property, and if they're in an absolute deadlock disagreement on here, we don't want this condition basically to stop the project. So I think it needs to be viewed in that context. It's advisory at best.
Okay, I think that's a fair statement. I think what we want to say is the board is requesting, not as a condition, but the board is requesting that they work together to provide landscaping on the Kofi side of the wall. Okay, I would agree with that. I think I don't want to stop the project if there's not an agreement on it.
Okay,
Okay, let me get to my other points. I'm good with that.
I think you've already spoke. No, you're not done?
I'm not done.
Okay.
I just I want to go through the other points that the Bermans have to say.
I thought you were done.
Yeah. Also, I would condition it on removing the proposed pottery and plants on the top of the roof above the garage, and limit the landscaping in the front and backyards that would impact corridor views for the Bermans. So I would limit it to the height, I don't know, what would be appropriate, to the height of the back deck? Or what the Bermans asked for is limit trees and bushes taller than 3 feet in the front and backyards that would impact corridor views.
I think that was the dwarf trees.
They're
right?
more referencing the dwarf trees that are up front that are listed at 6 to 8 feet, or 8 feet as a mature height for those trees.
I just want to make sure his
I think
corridor
to
views that
keep
I'm
it
finding
at the
view equity
fence
are
height.
not blocked with landscaping.
Trying to answer your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
At 6 feet is what a required, or what a fence height would be.
Right.
By right, they can come and put a 6-foot fence, right? Don't forget, there's also the huge tree that's right on the Kofi's property that's right on that same side. So a 6-foot height to stay within the fence line is probably appropriate for the front yard. The rear side of the yard, don't forget the downslope of the existing lot. That 3 feet would be completely invisible from most of these neighbors.
That's what I was thinking of, Louis, in the back, that make it no higher than the bottom of the back deck.
It
Does that
says
make
in the
sense?
staff report, Tom, that the dwarf New Zealand Christmas tree replaced all 3 dwarf citrus trees in the landscape plan. Is that correct?
Oh, if there were going to be dwarf trees throughout the backyard, is that what you're saying?
It'll be vice versa. The New Zealand Christmas tree was replaced by 3 dwarf citrus trees.
Oh.
In the front or the back, Garrett?
In the front.
Okay, what's in the back that might grow tall?
Let me pull up the landscape plan for us.
I just want to make sure that the view corridor that the Bermans have from their ceremonial living room is not going to be impeded by landscaping. Yeah, I don't know them.
Variegated, that's all low growing. Boxwood balls.
Basically, wanting to create a height for the hedge. Basically, you'd be trying to create so on their landscape plan, the max height for most of their trees is 8 feet, minus their hedge one, which is the ligustrum. I can never say the trees' names, but it's LT, but that's a hedge. And so their max height that they're saying is 18 feet, which is probably too high to your point. So setting appropriate height for their hedge is probably the most appropriate line in your question.
Okay, why don't we do this? The front landscaping maximum 6 feet, the back landscaping no higher than the bottom of the second floor deck. That gives them plenty of height back there.
And
I'm not.
Are you talking? Board Member Gibbon, I'm just trying to clarify it. Are you talking the base of the deck or are you talking the railing?
Base.
So the base of the railing is 12 feet from grade or the basement level of the house,
Let's see here.
approximately. The railing height would be, what, another 36 inches, so 15 feet?
I got 15 feet. And the grade goes down.
That's basically at street level.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
I'm willing to defer to you guys on that, but
Okay.
I am concerned about landscape growing into the Bermans.
No, I understand what you're saying because it was raised. The dwarf trees were raised, I think, as an issue, that they would grow to 8 feet. They're dwarfs, but they can grow as high as 8 feet, and that would impede their view.
That's from
their
the
thermal
front.
view. That was my understanding.
That's in the front. The question is in the back.
Okay.
We can, I think we kind of come up with some limit if we're going to do it.
I see dwarf citrus in the front. I see dwarf citrus in the back.
Louis, you saw a hedge that might grow 18 feet tall in the back?
Garrett, go to the landscape graph and show him so we can educate Gibbs on reading these plans.
I'm not a landscape guy.
So this is the planting palette down here on the left, right? And so on the left side, it calls out the name of the trees and the symbol that it represents. Down the middle is the name of the trees. And then on the far right is the mature height. And then the main, Garrett, can you scroll up just, zoom out just a little bit? Zoom out. So the planted size is this one, and then the maintained size is the one that they're proposing on the right as their mins and maxes. The only one that's going any higher than 8 feet is the ligustrum, which is number 27, which is being called out at 18 feet, which is the hedge that they're going to run across the 18 inches. Oh, 18 inches. So it's really actually no issue. So everything in the back was.
They're all low.
Right.
Yeah. All super
okay.
low. So it's a non-issue. 8 feet is the
Yeah,
max
that's a good
proposed.
point. Just want, okay, so I'm good. Are we, is a condition, one of the conditions to replace with these dwarf palms, or is that in the?
I don't, that'll have to be a decision in conclusion with the board that we all agree on one.
Yeah, I
condition,
would be
yeah.
fine with that if my fellow board members agree. So that's, let me see if I've got anything else. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Mr. Weil.
Yeah, okay. So lots of dialogue. Thank you, Board Member Gibbs. I think you are hitting on some key issues, and I appreciate your taking the lead on a couple of concessions. I do want to recognize the applicant team, right? I've seen a lot of projects over my 6 years on this board, and I've seen people that have come in with these huge bloated projects to then whittle them down. This is not that case. You guys came in with a very modest, well thought out project to start with, and then it brought to light some concerns and issues from where you started. I have appreciated your working with concessions to make a project that meets your needs and meets the needs of the neighbors. I've seen that from hearing 1 to hearing 2, and I've seen that here today. As far as the staking is concerned, I was able to articulate, the overall project's design and be able to make a clear determination this evening based on what was there. And I think the spirit of what you were trying to do met the intent of the code. And it did give us some discussion, and we got to talk with the neighbors. And I think in general, there was an understanding of where it was and where the plans are and what is to be expected on this site. And I think that sets the stage for our board's dialogue quite well this evening. As far as your access point, you are dropping as low as I believe you can go from a driveway access standpoint. So I think your base level of the house is at the spot it needs to be. I think at the 9.6 plate height is a reasonable height to be at for maintaining the living room in the lower level. I'm, no offense, the tallest board member and anything. What? Yeah, 9.6 is fine. And I've historically never been one to go any lower than 9, and I think 9.6 is appropriate in this site. That's just something I've said over the years. I think the fence issue that kind of came up, and I appreciate you guys being open to continue dialogue. From my standpoint on the board, fences are a civil issue, and they're an issue between two neighbors to come to an agreement. I think there's even language in the city code that if disputed, one neighbor can actually trigger the other neighbor to pay for half of the fence or something to that effect, which isn't the case here. But there's a lot of rules and regulations and by right nature for fences. So I try to stay out of them from the board seat. But I would encourage, an agreement, because when fences do get built, it does create animosity between neighbors. And I don't think that's the intent of either party in this dialogue. As far as the home, the landscape changes that we were discussing, the 6 feet on the citrus trees up front to be capped, I think was the only note I had necessary for the planting plans. The garage, I think, is fine. If there is some concessions for moving it off of the property line a little bit, I can be supportive of it, but I didn't necessarily see that as the issue. I think in the design of your house, you actually do have some articulation on the coffee side, and where the exterior of the structure on the lowest level is a little wider, but the upper story is actually brought in a little bit. And yes, there is the little overhang that does occur, but I think that's natural with the design and just integrity of the architectural design and the structure of a home. One thing that I was noting was you have those upper windows on the sides of the properties. They're kind of long rectangle ones. I think they were on my notes from the elevations. It's marked 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9. I'd like to see those opaque because those are on your side neighbors. And so they're off the kitchen. And so those are main uses of the homes. And you don't want that light to kind of really light up these other neighbors. Whereas they're not really view windows for you guys, but I think they capture the light for you. So I'd recommend that those windows be modified.
Which windows? I'm sorry.
If you go, Garrett, can you go to?
They're the transom windows on the coffee side.
On the coffee side?
But those are at what, a 7 foot height?
A4 on the upper two sections. 8, 9 is these top two windows. 4, 5, and 6 are these on the next one.
They're below.
They're all on the
on the lower level.
No, they're all on the upper level. So stay there.
No, this is now up.
So stay there. See the two windows on that side were right above your finger? That one and that one?
Above? They're
8, 9. And just because they are off the kitchen, to just have them be, they don't have to be frosted glass. They just need to be breaking of the light. Or you could tint them. Sure.
Because of all these things, because of heat, we get glass now. They make you get this glass, and it's already fairly tinted. I have it in my house, and the light does not.
A VT element would be fine.
Yeah,
A visual translucent,
all you need.
just applied to those windows so the glare is reduced at night.
Yeah, I just think only the reason I say that, board member.
And then,
well, is
Garrett,
because
if you
of
go to the
cleanliness
next
of the
section that
glass.
shows the other side, those would be the two windows that I was talking about.
So you're saying tint those windows?
Tint them, or some sort of application that brings down the glare for the
It
evening.
reduces the
Yeah,
low glare windows.
Yep.
Okay.
Just to quickly clarify, on this side, are you referring to windows 4, 5, and 6?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Not
see
3.
8 and 9.
No, so 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
That's,
Finish.
and again, I'm open to dialogue.
Talking about these guys right there.
Okay.
And then the last little thing that I did think was, while we're
Oh,
on the
I've got
same
the wrong
page,
side.
you are providing the privacy screen for the upper deck. I do think it's still of a benefit to have the privacy screen extended below to offset that window and door, primarily from the window from Janine's side. That would provide privacy for you guys and privacy for them. It can be open, but I'd like to see that louver model just kind of help break it up.
Board member, while I might step in, I think that Ms. Marquez had mentioned that Mr. Berman might have an issue with that planter on the second. So I think they were going to maybe work that out, but I don't know, but.
No, I
I'm
recall.
against having that planter
So
there.
let's bring it around.
I wasn't even talking about the planter.
Okay.
Okay, Louis,
Hold on. Order.
I just got a.
Mr. Well has the floor.
I know, I got a point of clarification
Okay,
for
let
him on
him
his
finish
last
first.
point. Okay, I'll come back to it.
What? Go ahead.
I was unclear what windows you wanted tinted. Is it on both sides, 4, 5, and, well, let me ask the question. 4, 5, and 6 on the south side and
And 8 and
8
9
and
on
9
the
on
north.
the north side?
Yep.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. All right, we'll bring this around.
Yeah. Okay. But the privacy screen to be extended, that's where I was at.
Privacy
On
on the lower level.
If there was a concession for the pitch on the roof that makes that more open, I'm amenable to it. I think we were originally asking for the articulation fact. So you followed the board's direction, but if there is a change that mutually benefits you and the neighbors that's accommodating, that's agreed to, I can be supportive of what that change might be. But I'm fine with the modest pitch now, as I think the view equity is balanced.
Okay. I tend to lean more with Ms. Coveney's assessment. I do agree with a couple things that Mr. Gibbs brought up and a couple of things that Mr. Weil brought up. And bringing this back to the horn and giving you clear direction with clear conditions on this if you hope to get approval tonight. So my concerns were the plate height. When we say 9.6 to 9.4, we're talking about this much, okay? And we're talking about bringing the garage in by 9 inches. That's about that much. And so when you look at in the whole scheme of things, is it going to have a positive impact by reducing that to the coffees? I think they were concerned about a view corridor looking out towards the back. And they thought that bringing that back, I think, would improve their view corridor, from my understanding. So I think that minor modification, the 9 inches, might make a small impact, a positive impact for the coffees. As far as the Bermans, the dwarf trees, there was concern that they would get to 8 feet tall. They wanted something to 6 feet tall. I was going to suggest another genus of plants, whatever you think would work. But hearing from the other board members, I think we clarified that by what's there in the back and how it's actually impacting view equity and privacy. With Mr. Wheel's comments about the glare, I understand from the glare standpoint, and that's a small concession to make, very easy to make. But to get some consensus among all of us, is there a consensus that we move forward with conditions on this project?
I think the answer is yes. I'm probably the strongest feeling on moving that garage back a foot. However, given what I've heard from the other board members, and I think we need to get a consensus tonight, I will go with the 9 inches. I think it does make a difference because it's not the view, it's the entryway into their front door. And I think pulling that building back 9 inches versus 1 foot, I think it's significant, and 9 inches I can support.
Are you, I can support with conditions tonight approval. Do you have that list of everything? Because I do. If you don't, I just want to.
Good, I'm glad you kept track.
I think so, because I just had a couple questions.
I have quite a few of them.
I've got quite a few, but I think MJ can start and then we can add and subtract.
Mr. Wow, how about?
I think we're close with conditions, and I think we all know what the conditions mean to the project. And I think it's in the reduction nature that I think there is a project that can be approved this evening.
And the applicant seems to be amenable to those conditions that were discussed as well. My understanding is so.
That's correct.
I'll entertain a motion, a very detailed motion.
Yeah, can I just clarify some of these conditions first? Okay, so I just want to make sure. So I had one concession for the coffees. You made a concession that you would allow them to keep that fencing on the corner even though it exceeds into your property. Okay, so
I think that's on the plans now,
yeah, I just want to, it's all noted there? I don't know if I didn't study it that hard.
That's on the plans, so you don't need to make it.
Okay.
It's
on the front.
the one on the front.
But if you're talking about the concession in the back.
Front.
At the
One in
front.
the front. So that's
Yes,
staying.
yes.
Okay. And then
That's not a condition then, because it's on
that's
the
not,
plan.
sorry.
already
So
in
I
the
can
plan.
scratch
Okay.
that off.
Just
Just wanted to
scratch
make
that
sure it was there. Sorry, I didn't catch it. The 9-inch garage. So I think we've made that concession. The
Move
privacy.
it over.
Move it over.
Okay.
The one I said flower box or whatever to you, Mr. Weil, I meant the privacy screen. I think there was some issue with that, with the Bermans being blocked by it. I don't know if he's allowed to talk.
Wait,
No, it's not a public
Sorry,
hearing.
can't
I'm
talk.
sorry, no discussion.
I'm sorry. It's a
Sorry,
protocol.
The
procedure.
privacy screen isn't coming up full height. It's just coming up just a bit above the railing.
Okay, okay,
On-
great.
on the
I just
west
didn't
side.
want it to block.
I've heard the Marquez are fine with letting it go, and it's important to the Bermans, so I don't think we should require it. I've talked to both. I talked
The
to
additional
both.
privacy screen is
The
what you're saying.
privacy screen off the deck, yeah.
I would agree with
But
that.
the one that's proposed to remain.
The one they
On the
proposed
upper
will-
level.
On
at the upper level will come off. That's my understanding of what, from talking to Berman and talking to Marquez.
Do we want to open up to confirm?
Just, I think what we need to make sure that that's the one. If they're fine with that, it benefits Berman because it improves, it maintains his view, and Marquez was willing to concede on that.
Is that the consensus of the rest of the board?
No, I think the privacy screen still needs to be there on the upper deck
Why?
because it's windows looking into windows.
The privacy screen?
No, it's window looking into deck.
He's talking
And
about.
it's only at the side of the house.
Okay. Name the other conditions then from what you have so far.
The tinted windows.
What about the flat
Just,
roof?
yeah, just, and the flat roof, sorry, good point.
Do we want the
And the
applicant
block
to
wall.
articulate that one more time for us? Of what,
Coming off the bench wall,
Okay.
perpendicular.
All right, sorry. It's very complicated, especially on a third hearing.
Could I ask
No.
a quick clarification on the roof change?
Yes.
There was discussion as well regarding the removal of eaves. Are we looking at just bringing the roof down to a flat roof or removing the eaves as well?
That's how I understand it.
Yeah, we need, I would do the flat roof.
I think we all agree. I think we all agree on the flat roof. Is that correct?
With eaves remaining.
Okay, Mr. Berman, I'm sorry.
Just ask-
It's not
let's,
a public hearing.
let's ask the applicant because they proposed it, just to re-clarify those two marks that they came to agreement with,
All right, I'll open up.
just for our own
I'll
understanding.
open up the public hearing. So now if you'd like to clarify what you have agreed to as far as conditions.
Yeah, as far as I understand, we were going back to removing the hip roof that is currently over the front door and changing that to a flat roof. Keeping the same overhang, the 1-foot eaves on the side yard, and keeping the same projection towards the street.
The block wall was agreed to. The 9-inch moving over.
The 9-inch of the garage, yes.
Okay. What else? Anything else that?
For our own clarity, the screen on the balcony is that staying or?
The
going?
privacy screen.
Privacy screen.
That's the issue right now. We have one board member that wants to keep it.
Yeah, I'm in favor of getting rid of it based on my conversations with the people interested.
Could you let that concession go, Board Member Weil? Okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing once again. Mr. Berman, I'm sorry, you're out of order. I'm closing the public hearing once again. I wanted to do this in the right way, the best possible way. And it's going down. All right. Okay. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Ms. McCovney, who's going to offer a motion with conditions.
And you better get all the conditions correct.
I would like to make a motion for approval of 505 Belmont Street and adopt resolution 241652, approving design review 241652 for the demolition of an existing single-family dwelling and construction of a new single-family dwelling in the R1 zone, and finding said action exempt from California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15303 of the CEQA guidelines. Approval based on the following conditions: that the citrus trees remain at 6 feet and capped at 6 feet, that the garage is moved to the south 9 inches, that the windows 4, 5, and 6,
8
and
and 9.
8 and 9 are tinted to allow less light glare. Thank you. And that the privacy screen presently in the plan back on the back south side of the deck is removed.
And the elimination of the pitch roof at the
Oh,
entryway.
big one. The elimination of the hip roof
A
will
hip
now
roof, I'm
become
sorry.
a flat roof. All the eaves will remain at the air sides that they are now. Am I saying that correctly? 1 foot.
1 foot.
That just will extend off 1 foot. And except on the left, on the north and south side of the house.
And also, no planting above the garage.
Oh, and no planting above the garage.
You got my list
I
with
guess
that.
you could have said that. Did I
That's
cover
right.
Is that clear, staff?
Just so that we have a height regarding the flat roof, are we returning to the height of the previously proposed flat roof?
Good question. I think it has to tap out where the
Yeah, well, it's where the
I think
the
my-
bottom of the roof is now, so it'd be flat along there because he's reduced the plate heights. So
The bottom of that eve currently proposed of the
Yeah.
hip would stay the same with the flat as well. It would
Right.
just have the taller the fascia that matches the back of the rest of the house. I think it's 14 inches on that flat roof. And then, yeah, the 2% slope on top of the roof.
back section?
It is, it's the same as the back, yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
remember the
yes.
backs. All right,
Okay,
Mr.
that
Wink,
makes-
is
so
that clear?
That is clear.
Okay, are those the complete set of conditions as agreed?
It's got my list. Louis?
Anybody? I'll entertain a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Maria, can you take roll call?
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Roger Thalman.
Yes. My final
Motion
vote.
carried.
Congratulations. You have a approved project with conditions.
Thank you very much.
All right. The remainder of the agenda is there any other business from staff?
No, I don't have any other business. I do have one announcement that I want to make. I want the board to know that Maria will be leaving us this next week. So this is her last meeting. And on behalf of staff, I want to let everyone know that we really appreciate your service to the city. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria.
You've been a great addition to this team, and I have to compliment you on the minutes are always spot on. I don't think we've had any corrections. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, she did an excellent
you,
job.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Maria. All right, with that, please take your discussion outside. Thank you. Thank you.
So
All
this-
right,
This
with
is the
that-
last of this board.
I will, yeah. I'm glad you left that to the last one, yeah. I'll offer adjournment.
I second that.
Okay.
Best moment for your finale.
No.
Solid.
Well, I don't know. Was it?